And thank everybody for joining us today. My name is Sandra Knight. I am the secretary for IAMCP Americas, and it is my pleasure to be hosting Hispanic Heritage Month commemoration with the Americas D&I Committee. Just a couple of logistics before we get started, and I turn things over to Frank Valdivieso, who is our IAMCP Diversity and Inclusion Chair. Because this is a regular Teams meeting, I'm going to ask everybody to please mute yourselves during the presentation. If you do have any questions or anything, we will be monitoring the chat panel, so please put those questions in the chat and we'll open it up for Q&A at the end. Also, if you, just to cut back on distractions and things, if you aren't presenting, we're going to ask that you put yourself on, you turn your camera off as well, so that we can concentrate on the beautiful faces that are actually presenting for us today. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Frank to introduce everybody that's going to be presenting today. Frank, over to you.
Thank you, Sandy. Well, welcome everyone. It's kind of interesting when I was really looking forward to this month's webinar, and in preparing, I was like, okay, I'm going to get an opportunity to flex my Spanish, right? So my wife, being who she is, reminded me of the time that I took her to Puerto Rico to meet my godmother before she passed. And so we were on our way to visit my godmother and we got lost. So I had to pull over and I asked the gentleman for directions. So I pulled down the window and I was like, perdóneme, señor, ¿me puede decir dónde está la calle 17? And that guy looked at me straight in the face and he said, it's 2 blocks over and to the left. So I will not be using any more Spanish today, because obviously it's not very good. So with that, I want to welcome you guys to Hispanic Heritage Month here, and we've got a great program in store for you guys. Just real quick, I've got some announcements to make real quick about what's going on here in the Americas. And then I'm going to turn it over to Will DeLise Rivera to provide us some opening remarks. And then we'll get started with our primary presentation with Ana Riveros. So with that, without further delay, couple announcements, a big one really. Last week on October 5th, Microsoft's Tech for Social Impact launched the nonprofit Tech Acceleration for Black and African American communities. And this was an outgrowth of really Satya Nadella's letter on social injustice. And what the program is really focused around is providing an opportunity for nonprofits that are serving those communities to basically get some technical assistance, if you will. So they've got a series of concierge, digital concierge, where the nonprofits will register their nonprofit, talk about their mission, and where they can provide or where they think they need digital transformation services. And so the concierge will work with them, identify, vet what types of support that those organizations need. And then if needed, they will then transfer those organizations over to a Black-owned tech company in their local community to assist them complete the project. So very, very impactful, very, very exciting project. And there are a number of other initiatives that Microsoft is launching as well. They're Accelerate Atlanta, where they're going in and providing workforce development skills services in a number of markets. So a lot of great activities going on and support that we're getting from Microsoft. For those of you that are new, I just wanted to give you an overview. This is really kind of timely. We just had our mid-year review on the international basis with the International Committee that's headed up by Sarika Mahorta. And some of the things that we'll be focusing on here in the Americas are the following. We want to implement a supplier diversity program within the IAMCP to also help guide and provide opportunities to minority, women-owned, LGBT-owned, veteran-owned companies. So we're looking forward to getting that going. I couldn't hear what you said. And Siri, I wasn't talking to you. And then we're also going to be focusing on gender diversity within our membership. We just completed the results of our member survey, and obviously there are a number of groups that are not present. And we're going to be focusing on gender diversity first to really focus on bringing more women to the IAMCP. And then also focusing on providing allyship and inclusive leadership training. You know, allyship is such a powerful concept, and I love what it represents and what it means. And the definition I love most about, or the one I kind of use most when I'm describing allyship, is an individual using their position of power or influence to basically provide assistance to a group or of individuals or a group that has been, you know, underrepresented. So I got to tell you, in developing and working with a number of folks within Microsoft, I have seen just tremendous allyship just across the board. And then last but not least, we'll be working with the Tech Equity Committee that's being headed by Jennifer Didier. And for those of you that don't know Jennifer, she is a real powerhouse. And so we're really, really excited about working with her and supporting the Workforce Development Initiative. And so the other thing is, again, we'd love for you guys to join us. We have meetings every Thursday from 11:30 to 12:30. And then the fourth Thursday of the month, we reserve for our committee meetings. And if you're interested in getting engaged, please send an email to americas.dni.chair@imcp.org. All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the meat of our presentation. And I'd like to turn it over to Wilda Lees.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Frank, for that introduction. It's really a pleasure for me to be here again with all of you, and thanks for joining this this webinar, which is so important for us. As Frank mentioned, my name is Willa Rivera. I'm part of the Hispanic community. Currently, I was born, raised, and currently living in Puerto Rico. But I've been a lot of years in the industry, and since 2 years ago, I start participating from this type of initiatives from DNI perspective, and it's been such an amazing journey. And so for me, being here today with you to talk about Hispanic and the National Hispanic Heritage Month, it means so much for us. So as we all know, along of all the history, we've seen major contribution for Hispanic community and members that had made so much for the world. Actually, we've seen Hispanic community making a lot of impact in science, technology, arts, even sports that we like so much. Just to mention a few of them. Just to give you a brief example that we're gonna probably jump a little bit more about talking about gender and other things related. We have important people that have made major contribution, like Diana Trujillo, which she's a Colombian woman that she's currently part of the NSA, and she will be part of the mission Mars 2020. She also participated from an initiative doing an examine and design a robotic arm as an instrument for this mission. Also, we've seen things like, for example, Gonzalo Camarena. He's a Mexican inventor, and I'm pretty sure that you're gonna remember this, but because whenever you turn on your TV the next time, you're gonna remember about this Mexican guy, because he was the one who received the patent for the chromoscopic adapter in the television. So basically, he made us see the television in colors. With all that said, I just want to leave you with this information, because it's a great community. We've been doing so much for other communities and integrating and collaborating. And with that, I'm gonna leave you with our foremost speaker of this presentation. Her name is Ana Riveros. She's a senior program manager for Fast Track Azure at Microsoft, and she's also the chair in Denver for Ola, which is Hispanic and Latinx at Microsoft. And she is going to be delivering an amazing message and just to bring you more interesting information as we've been doing the last interventions and session that we had. So with that said, thank you everyone for participating. Please, at the end, feel free to make questions. And now I hand it to you, Anna. Welcome, Anna, and thank you for participating.
Thank you, Odalis, for the warm introduction. Thank you, John and team, for inviting me to the event. I'm very excited to be here. I know we don't have much time today, so I think I'm going to jump straight to the presentation. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Please let me know when you see it. Let me see here.
We see it.
Okay. Just give me 1 second. All right. Sorry, so many screens here. All right. So I'm very excited to be here again. You know, the subject of Hispanic Heritage Month is very near and dear to my heart. And today the agenda that I prepare is that we are going to talk about what it means, what the Heritage Month means, what are the difference between Latinos, Hispanics, Latinx, what some of the statistics and some of the struggles our minorities suffer here in the U.S. and also in Latin America. So as just a quick introduction, my name is Ana Riveros and I'm a Senior Program Manager for Fast Track for Azure Engineering at Microsoft. I have a bachelor degrees in computer science and a master. Have worked in many different roles in IT, different range of roles in quite many different countries. And now I am the chair of the Denver OLA chapter. The OLA chapter means Hispanics on Leadership. And our mission is to develop a community for Latinx and Hispanics in Microsoft employees and also work with our allies. Help everyone to be their authentic self, also to ensure that we are preparing our Latinx, our Hispanics for opportunities as they arise. OLA was founded in 1998 and it has about 3,000 people joining worldwide at Microsoft. So for example, I am the chair of the Denver chapter. Different states have different chairs and we have somebody that is worldwide the chair as well. And we partner with councils with other entities such as High Tech, the Association of Latinos Professionals for America, Society of Hispanics Professional Engineers, and so on. All that to further network and for professional development of our team. So with that, I'm sure many of you already know, but I'm sure some of you also don't know. What is the Hispanic Heritage Month? It's a period that goes from September 15 to October 15 in the US, in the United States, in which we recognize the contributions and influence of Hispanics Americans to the story, culture, achievements in the United States. The Hispanic Heritage Month began as Hispanic Heritage Week, and it was established and signed by law by President Lyndon Johnson in '68. In 1988, the Commemoration Week expanded to be a full month, and that was signed into law by President Ronald Reagan. September 15 was chosen as the starting point because is the date, is the commemoration anniversary of the independence of 5 Hispanic countries: Nicaragua, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. Also, is a celebration of independences from Mexico, Chile, and Belize. So while we know we have plenty of Latinos contributions to the U.S. On history, cultural, and achievements, I wanted to point out that our contributions have not started just now. They started hundreds of years ago when Bernardo Galvez, the Spanish governor of Louisiana, played a key role helping with the independence in battles against the British soldiers. We also help desegregate schools when the American-Mexican family Mendez in California in 1946 helped launch the very case that ruled that segregation of schools was unconstitutional. So, unlike the segregation of African Americans, segregation of Mexican Americans was not dictated by law, but was started in 1921. Mexicans laborers starting arriving here in the U.S. in California, and communities began to enforce their own de facto segregation. In addition to all the artists, writers, army, we have 400,000 Hispanics served in the World War II. Thousands of Hispanics served in the Korean War. We have Nobel Prizes of Medicine and Psychology by Dr. Severo Ochoa. The latest architecture in earthquake design has come from Mexico City. We have sports and contributions in almost any field that go from cuisine. So, for example, the barbecue originated when the Spanish introduced pigs in the New World. We introduced the coolest, iconic Christmas song as well. For example, I don't know if you guys know Jose Feliciano de Puerto Rico. Feliz Navidad, próspero año y felicidad. So many things. In language, we have words such as tornado, chocolate, jerky, tobacco, alligators. There are so many things in which we contribute. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx to ensure everybody understands the difference. So it is interesting because the way it is measured here in the US by the census, it's a very straightforward approach. Who is Hispanic? Anyone who says they are, and anybody who says they aren't. Census rely on self-reporting and self-identification. Nevertheless, if you look at the chart on the left, you will see that Hispanics trace origins back to Hispanic heritage, so from Spain, countries such as Chile, Peru, Argentina, Mexico, and other in the list. That does not include Portugal or Brazil. So you might be asking yourself, so well, Brazilians, Portuguese, Filipinos are not Hispanics. So in the eyes of the census in the US, they are if they say they are. But on the federal definition, what it means to be an Hispanic, they are not, because actually they don't speak Spanish. Latino. Latino is a word that talks about people from Latin America. That includes Brazilians, but excludes people from Spain. And the word is a little bit different today. For example, there is I will say a stigma around the word Latino today, because in the Latin grammar, we use male and female construction. So for example, to point out, I say, I am a Latina, I'm not a Latina. There is this idea that the word Latino generated among English speakers and ignores the Spanish language, gender, and form. So that's why one of the reasons that people start using the term Latinx, that is an identity label that is gender inclusive. So you will see by the graph on the right that only 23% of the people have heard or used the Latinx word. Most of the people have never heard of the word yet. And very interesting that from the people that have heard, most of them, 42%, are from the age 18 to 29. Another thing that I put here on this slide that I think is interesting is see how Latinos, we identify ourselves. So in the US, if you ask, where are you from or what are you? I would say, I'm from Chile, so country of heritage, or 47% of people will say that, or I am a Latino, 39%, of American, only 14%. And those numbers start changing according on how much time people are here, second, third generation. So that's very interesting. Another thing that I would like to share with you is, so what is the situation in the US? The situation in the US is that we have about 60 million people, 6.6 million people after 2019 of the population are Hispanics. From that total, we know that we continue growing at a point of 1.9%, which is still some growth, but it is much smaller than the growth we experienced from 95 to the year 2000, that it was 4.8%. Main reasons being the Latin ladies, Latin women start having less children, and also the drop of immigration from Mexico. In the graph in the middle, towards the right, you will see that people from Mexico account for more than 60% of the Hispanics in the US, about 37 million people. Some of the largest Hispanics population in the United States are in the borders of Mexico, California, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. We also have a major Latino population dispersed around the countries. 5 states are home of 2/3 of the Latinos. So California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Arizona. Some of the important information as well, we will see that the fastest growing population at the moment among Latinos at the moment is around Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, and Honduras. Also that 4 in 5 Latinos are US citizens, and 32 million Latinos are projected to be electable to vote now in 2020. Most of those Latinos live in California, New York, Florida, Texas, and Jersey. So here on the right, bottom right, you see a graph that talks about the percentage of Latinos eligible to vote in those states. Also, we have 41% of the Hispanics that are adults ages 25 and older have some college experience. 17% have a bachelor degree, and 71% of the Latinos speak English proficiently. Another interesting fact is that the Latinos are among the youngest racial and ethnic group in the US. 49% are millennials. More likely than other Latinos to be foreign-born, Latinos with Caribbean roots are more likely to identify as Afro-Latinos. also less likely to have college education at 24%. This reflects the complexity of race among Latinos. The multiple dimensions of Hispanic identity also reflect the long colloquial story in Latin America, during which mixing occurred among indigenous Americans, white Europeans, slaves from Africa and Asia. Afro-Latinos make significant shares of the population in some corners of Latin America. On the graphic in the right, you will see Brazil, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Colombia popping up. For example, in Brazil, you will think that about half of the population is from African descent. And Black Cubans make about a third of the country population. In the Dominican Republic, it's about 90% of Afro descents. One thing that I wanted to put here to talk about a little bit and make you think as well is about Afro-Latinos today. Face double marginalization. Black community distance themselves from Afro-Latinos due to cultural and linguistic difference. In turn, the Latin community also denaturalized the Latino identity of Afro-Latinos for being too Black. This group has been historically ignored in the US. In 2014, it was the first year the US Census recorded any information regarding aspects of Latino identities. The same, more or less for Latam, we have in Mexico include Afro-Latinos in their census only in 2015, for example. Here, I also put in the middle of the slide, I put some of the famous Afro-Latinos we have here in the US and some pictures that I think that talk a lot of the assumption that people make. So, for example, when you talk sometimes with Black people, a Black man, you immediately imagine, okay, he must be an athlete, or if it's in Central America, they are going to think, oh, he must play soccer and they must dance well. There's all these assumptions that people make, and they are very interesting. With that, wanted to very quickly here, I know we have a long way to ensure quality for the Hispanics and Latinx in the US. Without the good things that come from our history, culture, and achievements, we expect to continue commemorating our heritage and achievements year after year. Now, here you will see examples of our wonderful cuisine, our beautiful people, dancing, music. And now we will be jumping to, I want to talk very quickly on some of the things at DNI at Microsoft, and then we will jump to the Q&A. So diversity and inclusion at Microsoft are not new. We started 30 years ago with the focus on accessibility in the 90s. We know we have a responsibility to do far more than just raise awareness. Our Microsoft culture is rooted in growth mindset and commitments to diversity and inclusion, commitment to conscious and intentionally include everyone. We are among the 3% of Fortune 500 companies that share full workforce demographics data with the public. It is one way we hold ourselves accountable to our goal and our responsibility to increase diversity among employees. Since 2016, we have considerably increased the number of women in tech, Hispanics, Latinx, and African Americans. We are one of the first companies to require vendors and suppliers to provide minimum of 12 weeks parental leave. Other achievements include inclusion index, equal pay data, disability hiring, open doors, autism honoring programs, support policy making groups such as the MSS8 that help the military to prepare with technical skills. We have many different organizations inside Microsoft ERGs that help. We work closely with our vendors to ensure we are properly providing accessible experience to our events. Our goal is to bring as many people as possible into the conversation at these major industry moments. So it is important that attendees can have most complete and rewarding experience possible that foster through all the services that we provide with other areas. On the right of this slide, you will see some of our accolades that we have received. So you will see that the company is doing a lot. Of course, we don't pursue this work with the goal of receiving accolades, but it does help signal to prospective employees, customers, industry partners, vendors, and the communities where we live and work, that our values are central to everything we do. So that's more or less what I wanted to talk today. I'm gonna jump to the Q&A. I don't know if there are any questions open for me here in the chat.
So on a great presentation, I'm getting an echo. And, you know, I can, I'll just start by just saying, you know, kind of an observation, you know, your point that you made about Afro-Latino. So I'm Afro-Latino. My father was born in Cuba. He came to this country before the revolution. My mother is Cuban descent, but she's African American. She was born in Key West, Florida, but her parents were Cuban. And so you really hit it on the head, you know, so we're either not Black enough for the Black community or not Latino enough for the Latino community, right? And
Right.
so very, very important. And then the other thing that I get is a lot of times, you know, some of the unconscious bias I'll get is that there are individuals that don't understand that there are Afro-Latinos, period. So if I'm talking to someone and they haven't met me in person, their first reaction is, oh, that's a nice Italian name, right? You know, Valdivieso, that must be an Italian name. And then when they meet me in person, they're like, okay, what is Valdivieso? And then when I tell them it's Cuban, then it's like, Cuban, you know? So it's like, so anyway, so I think you're right on point there. And I think it's about, you know, understanding those biases and you know, educating, if you will, the community at large, that we're not monolithic, that Latinos are not monolithic, if you will. And that's very, very important. So I appreciated that point that you made there.
Great.
And Anna, can I ask you to stop sharing your screen so that everybody that goes on camera to ask questions and things will be on everybody's screen? There we go. Excellent.
Yep.
Do we have any other questions, comments? Oh, here comes Tommy Vesk.
Hello.
Hello.
I have to tell you, a lot of my friends from the DR, they consider themselves both Black and Hispanic. So hearing this today, it reverberates Frank's point. And it was so strange to me discovering when I was a kid, the DR and Haiti are in the same place. It's just split by a divider of nothing more than imagination and history. It just blows my mind. But this was so helpful today, Anna. Thank you so much for the presentation.
And Anna, please keep your camera on so we can make it conversational here. There were, you know, some comments being made during your presentation. I know Eduardo Leal said it made the comment that he loves Jose Feliciano. So I think we all do.
Yes.
And Frank, you had made the comment about her comments leading back to unconscious bias, right?
Yeah.
That we talk about a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And then, you know, so the other thing that we're seeing, so, and I don't know if you could talk about this, Anna, you know, COVID, right? And the impact that COVID, the disproportional impact that COVID is having, obviously, on Black and Brown communities, you know, African American and Latino communities. Can you talk a little bit about the impacts there, and if there are things that we can do to specifically help those in that community, the Latino community?
That's a great question, Frank. Some of the things that always doing, not just our chapter in Denver, but all worldwide, is doing, for example, food drive or doing different collections of equipment to help people in schools, or just having people helping the elderly, bringing things for them, different type of community services. So I think there are many things that all of us could do independently. You don't need to be joining an organization to be helping people in need. So highly encourage everybody to really look out for the people that really need a lot of our help. For example, now in Denver, the weather will start going down pretty quickly. And we have a lot of people, homeless people, or people rather that don't have a place to live right at the moment. And we are helping them as well, not just because of COVID, but because it's the situations that we have right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Christopher, you had made a comment too about understanding intersectionality to better comprehend the depth of the struggle for different groups of people. Did you want to expand on that a little bit during the conversation?
Thanks, Sandy. I mean, I think everybody that works with me on the D&I committee knows that this is a very key topic for me. I am that straight white guy, and as far as everybody's aware when they look at me, but if I don't tell you I'm part of the LGBT community, you won't ever know that. Intersectionality is very important. It's important for a person that is of the white skin color to recognize they have an obligation to own up to their other categories of identity so that they can show and represent for those. And I have spoken about Black Lives Matter circumstances. We can't look at this as just Black lives in the relationship with the descendants of slavery, but also immigration from Africa or the islands are also a different cohort of Black America that needs to be properly treated. So when you were talking about Afro-American, Afro-Latino, it was very much an opportunity for me to stand out again and say, hey, yes, intersectionality, this is what we're talking about, understanding that there's more than one thing. And I think that's the key to understanding how deep some of these struggles really do go and understanding what initiatives we need to take for these people. And Frank talked about earlier, not being Black enough, not being Latin enough. It's something that I've been hearing since I was a kid, 4 decades on the planet, and I don't think it's going to go anytime soon, but the more we can talk about it and understand it, I think the more we can overcome those issues.
Absolutely, Christoph. That's a very good point. And I think so for example, I'm originally from Chile. I grew up in Brazil and live in many other different countries. I feel that in the Latin community, there is this, everybody, it's like they want to be whiter. So for example, I'm half Indian, and it seems that all the girls, Latin girls, want to say, "Oh, I'm from Italy." No, right? Like it's the other side. They never talk about, which I think is interesting.
It's sad.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
I think Eddie has a question. Eddie? I see a hand raised.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for presenting today. I really appreciate it. I loved all the information you were sharing. And I had a question for you in regards to the supplier diversity. You had mentioned that one of the things that is in the supplier diversity program for Microsoft is requiring that parental leave. Can you share some some other things that are part of that supplier diversity program, because we're on a mission to get one set up for our own organization. And then the other question, the follow-up to that was, given that Microsoft's so big, they can kind of enforce that kind of thing. It's like, you have to do this to be a part of it, part of our supplier program. For an organization or a company that's smaller, do you have any ideas on how they can influence those parameters for companies that they do work with when they might not have the power behind them like Microsoft does?
Yeah, Eddie, great questions. So on the first question, so we do work with partners on different efforts. The parental leave is just one example. Other things that we want to get is, for example, equal pay and all the other things that we have implemented, such as the inclusivity index. All those things are things that we value in everybody that work with us and for us. And there are specific programs that help with that. I can share some of the links later.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I was hoping to share as well, just a different perspective. I'm first generation American. My family's from Colombia. I know what I look like, and I've actually had the opposite problem. Maybe, I'm not dark enough, right? Soy el mono pecoso, and it's been weird for me because I was raised with my abuelita, comiendo sancocho y empanadas, but I don't speak broken English. I'm not dark enough. I go to the restaurant, I go to the community, and it's like, why are you here? Right. So, that's something I've struggled with, which is, Hispanics kind of define their culture more about, how do we talk? How do we dance? What do we eat? What do we listen to? Right. It's more than just color. It's more than that superficial. And in these times where there's been a lot of conversation about race and identity, it's been a struggle for me because I feel like I'm getting some heat for something that I'm not a part of, right? My family's immigration is still happening. I brought my family over. I helped them with the green card process. I helped them speak English, and that was my reality, and it's still happening today. So I don't know if that helps at all, but I wanted to share. Right?
That is a great point, Anthony. Yeah, very, very interesting to see that happens to you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Anthony.
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to hear those types of messages.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Delise, we can't hear you. You're muted, but I can see.
Anthony, for the record, I would have gone with Anthony. For the record, I would have gone with Scottish.
That's what I get every time. Oh,
Yep.
You're not Irish or Scottish or German, and it's every single time. And I'm just like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I can't, get a better suntan. I'm not sure. Pero si nos ponemos a hablar, si nos ponemos a compartir, usted se va a dar cuenta que
All right. I'll talk.
While Delise.
Actually, Anna, you mentioned something very interesting. I didn't know how much Hispanics were part of the U.S. population. 60.6 million is a lot. So that means that the community is growing. The impact that we can bring to the community can be huge. And I think Microsoft is doing something really, really good and really important because for years in the industry, we've seen companies resisted to the calls to disclosure workforce data on diversity data, I'm sorry. Positive impact do you think or you can identify on big companies, technology companies, public, making this data public and regarding a diversity on the workforce?
Yeah.
And what is the importance of this transparency?
It is extremely important, Rodney. So, for example, today only 3% of the top Fortune 500 companies share that data. And what I think part of what happened, if you don't share that data and if people is not aware of what we really have, you don't have the opportunity to really manage yourself. So, for example, what is your target? What is the percentage of that you want to get of diversity in your company? You want to have a bigger percentage of women, a bigger percentage of blacks, a bigger percentage of Hispanics. So if you are not measuring and you're not sharing that, I think it creates, it doesn't help. It is very important to be transparent to accelerate the growth so people can drive through inclusion.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Anna, talking about inclusion. So one of the things that I learned in preparing for this session today was that up to 35% of Hispanics are usually the first group that will adopt technology or new gadgets. But what they found in a kind of a trust report, a trust barometer report, that 54% of the Latino community is not trusting of technology, right? And so what steps do you think that we as technology providers can take to kind of either narrow that gap or develop more inclusive solutions that kind of help alleviate that disparity, if you will?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Frank. So it seems that historically, indeed, the Hispanics have been among the first people to adopt gadgets and anything that is technology. And that goes for the younger Latinos. So Latinos have also, Latinos, they are not millennials. And that workforce or those Latinos don't have the same access to technology per se, or don't access the same technology. So what happened that this disparity that you point out in your questions is because the older Latinos are afraid that the technology will take their jobs away. So they are a little bit reticent with that. So I think one thing that the industries, big industries could do is help accelerate knowledge about digital transformation, providing programs to teach people what it means to work with computers, with digital transformation, with the cloud, and things like that. At Microsoft, for example, we had a program that was launched this year by Satya, in which we aim to train more than 20 million people in a certain amount of time. And that is not just involving Latinos, but everybody in the community. I think companies that have so much resources and money could invest in the population to help with that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that workforce development initiative is right on point. And it's something that I experienced as a business owner, the same sort of effect in the Black community here in which I live and service. I got tired of seeing candidates who had the right aptitude and the right attitude, right, to do very well in this industry, but just didn't have like the basic skills, and all they needed was some training. And you don't need to go to a 4-year college in order to be successful in this industry. There are a number of roles in our organizations that you can train someone to be a coder, if you will. You can train someone to provide good help desk services, and guess what? They can earn a really good living by doing that. So I think your point is well made, and I think again, you couple that with COVID and what's happening and how it's having such a disproportional effect on the Latin communities, that hopefully this is an opportunity for us to reach back and help some of those individuals who've been displaced, to kind of get them into careers in tech. So
yeah, absolutely.
You know what? I don't know, Ulysses, I see you're with us. I don't know if you're able to go on camera and take yourself off mute or not. Ulysses is the chair for the LATAM portion of the Americas. And I thought maybe Ulysses, are you able to say a few words to everyone that's joined us today? Not sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sandy. I just wanted to say thank you to Ana Riveros and all the comment from everyone. I didn't know stories about people like Anthony Camacho, that now that I hear that he's also from Colombia, it's interesting to hear different voices and all these diversity and inclusion opinions that we all have here. So I'm so glad to be here with all of you. And thank you once again, Anna, for your comments.
Thank you all for inviting me.
Thanks, Ulysses. Frank, do we have anything else? I don't see anything else in the chat panel at the moment.
No.
Good. All right. All right. Well, Anna, thank you so much for presenting. Wildly's, Frank, as well. We will make this recording available to all of our members afterwards. So those that weren't able to join us today live will be able to access the recording. We thank you so much, Anna, for joining us today, and hopefully we can have you on one of our future webcasts as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to talk about this very nice subject.
Thank you,
Yep,
Anna.
and
Absolutely.
I just have a special shout out to John Hassel for helping to coordinate this event. John, appreciate
Absolutely.
you. And Anna, thank you again. Will DeLees as well. We had to scramble to kind of put this together. Will DeLees rose to the challenge, and Anna stepped up. And I really appreciate your presence here today and your discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Have an awesome afternoon, and we'll see you on a future IAMCP webcast.
All right.
Thanks,
Good job,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Enjoy.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the leaves.